Hi everyone, and welcome to this video on obligation and how it can ruin communication as well. So JP, what is this obligation aspect of communication that can often help ruin it?
Obligation for me is a manipulation, it's deception. It's also mentioned earlier or in another module here, the free will of our partner. It's a violation of their free will, of obligating them into meeting our emotional needs. In the undertone of obligation here is, in the context we're using it, is there's an unspoken sense of deception about it. So it's one thing to say, here's my emotional needs. Now meet them, you're obligated to do that. Like that would actually be a step of improvement compared to usually our hidden obligations. So a hidden obligation might be, hey, I need you to pay attention to me. And all this goes on unconsciously here in this example, or inaudibly.
Inaudibly.
Exactly. So without being spoken, this happens where I say, okay, I'm feeling a little bit lonely here, and I need my partner to pay attention to me. But if I don't have the vulnerability to be transparent with my needs and say, hey, I'm feeling lonely, I'd like to spend some time with you. Do you have some time right now for us to just be together? If I don't know how to be vulnerable with that, because it is vulnerable, if I make a genuine, heartfelt request, you might say no. I'm liable to be rejected. So oftentimes out of our fear of rejection, I've never met a person who's never been burned by rejection. So once we all touch the hot stove, we all make an unconscious programmed pact, never touch that hot stove again. So we avoid rejection like it's the plague. That comes at the expense of our heart hardening, disconnection of communication. And here in this example, I revert to obligations rather than open, vulnerable communication. So it's like I manipulate you into meeting my need without me asking for it. If I manipulate you, you don't have a chance to reject me. Says my scared, scars from being burned by rejection in the past. So one example might be one partner plays the role of a victim. It's an archetype we all have. The question is, how often are we reverting to the role of a victim? So I might go into sort of a poor me consciousness, something to seduce you into being obligated to pay attention to me. So I might, might need to conjure up a sense of depression to actually get you to pay attention to me, because inside of our psyches, that can actually be less threatening and feel better than facing the rapture of potential rejection.
So what can we do to become more self-aware? Because this is all about the awareness part of communication. And when we start obligating people to fit a certain box so we feel better, that's when things get really messy with communication. So how do we become more self-aware to know what is going on inside us, and then communicating with our partner with that vulnerable status? So how do we do that?
So I love that great question, and part of the heartbeat here of self-awareness is, in a relationship, we need to know what our own emotional needs are. I mean, we could actually say needs in general. I'll just say emotional needs because I do emotional coaching and I'm biased just like everybody else. So know what our needs are. I have to know those about me. My partner can't know it for me. And I try and make that the reality when I have these unspoken obligations coming up, these manipulations, the deceptions that are very invisible. I mean, these things go on and we don't even know it, but there's a feeling tone to it. It starts to create tension, resentment, anger, disconnection, certainly. So we all need to know thyself. I don't think we need to know ourselves perfectly. Good luck ever making that happen. I think we need to know ourselves as much as we can in this moment. I need to know what my needs are. And needs come in many shapes, many sizes. For starters, we just think about space needs because we're in the context of a relationship. Sometimes we'll have the need for space to be greater. Sometimes we'll have the need for space to be close. In other words, I need connection with you, or I need self-time. So that's a great place for anybody to start self-assessing, like, okay, right now, today, what are my needs? And on our good days, my girlfriend and I will have this conversation. So we'll take a look at what each of our days look like and what our day looks like together so that we can have the connection that meets both of our needs in the best way possible. Sometimes it's not perfect, but it's at least the best we can do. And part of that is sometimes we'll have need for self-time. Maybe it's, I've got so many business projects going, or, I need to introspect here. I feel disconnected from myself, so I need a little bit of time on my own before I'm going to be fully available for you. And of course, we all have many other needs. We have needs for acknowledgement, needs to feel valued, needs for safety. We have basic needs of sleep, water, air, food. We have needs for playfulness. We have needs for intimacy. We have needs for connection.
And just adding to that, I think something I do in my life is it's just an addition to the self-responsibility that we talk about. You need to know yourself, but also you need to know, from my point of view, when to not take on someone else's stuff. If you feel that you are almost being violated, or there's some obligation to be a certain way or take on some emotional stuff for someone else, then you have to take that responsibility, say, no, this is your thing, please go and take some space. I think you need some space, come back to me when you know what you need, and then we can go from there, because most of the time the person doesn't know what they need that space. So the best thing you can do is tell them, just, I'm here for you, just please go and find out what you need, because I don't think you know what you need right now. And so a suggestion like that can really help, don't you think?
Absolutely. I think it's a great suggestion. And I think it takes a lot of courage to abide by that seduction. That's an interesting Freudian slip. There's actually a Freud book back here. But I think it's there's a lot of courage needed for that suggestion. Because if our partner doesn't know what their needs are, there's a decent chance they're running an unconscious program of obligation, manipulation, seduction. So when we recognize, dearly beloved, I can see you have a need that's not being met, and it looks like you don't know what that need is, just like you mentioned. Can you go, you connect and then come back and let me know what your need is? They can punish us for that, because they've got their unconscious program of obligation trying to get us to meet the need that they don't even know they have, but they have it. They're trying to get us to meet that need through their unconscious manipulation. So when we connect with them and ask, go figure out what your need is and then let me know, it's essentially asking them to break this cycle of their existing unconscious program so we can get their punisher coming out at us. Sometimes.
And yeah, this is a very high level form of communication. You need to be very self-aware and self-responsible and complete within yourself when you communicate like this, because they might go away from you for days or even weeks to try and work out what this thing is, and you've got to be fine with that if they do go away for like a couple of weeks. If it's a big thing, then you've got to be fine with that happening. If it's better for them, you've got to be wary of these things. Anything else to add on that one?
It really calls us to find a lot of strength and courage and self-support, inner dependence, in order to be able to essentially hold that space. And I think challenges like that, they're part of the blessing of a relationship. You know, that those inner resources that we need to hold that space, we might not know we have them. We might not know how to access them at first, but we'll never find them unless we have a need, a call to find them. So the kind of the perfection of the imperfection of the potential relationship conflict is it puts us in the atmospheric pressure to go deeper within, to find those inner resources that we need. Sometimes it's a struggle, sometimes it's graceful, and I think it's always necessary.
So we'll wrap that video up there. If you've got any questions on how to communicate at this high level, then please leave them in the comments below and we'll answer your questions there. Let us know, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.